Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I don't really have much of an update as far as the 250R goes, so I decided to do my power valve video today. So this is the video I made adjusting the power valve on the 250R, and it's what led up to me deciding to get a rebore. But the things that I'm doing to this power valve still apply. So this is kind of just my first time taking apart an ESR power valve, seeing how it works and cleaning it up. And the methods that I used to clean it up did seem to be effective, even though I still decided to ultimately send the cylinder out for a rebore. I still think that all of the techniques in here still apply. So anyways, it'll still be an interesting video, whether or not you want to clean it out. You can see how the power valve works and how it's put together and everything. So if you guys are enjoying the content that I've been putting out, please give me a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot. Enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys at the end.
All right, guys, I'm going to start this video up a little bit differently than I normally do. I've got the helmet camera on right now, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit annoyed, kind of pissed off at this thing. So I switched out the wheels. You can see I got the OEM gold wheels on there. I think it actually looks pretty cool. And we got the 20s in the back and the 21s in the front. There are the old, well, new wheels, but we're waiting for the O-bore tires so we can switch those out. And I figured I would just take them all off because I have to take them to Matt's to switch it out. So anyways, why I'm annoyed with this thing, I've kind of talked about how it seemed like it wasn't that powerful on the top end. Like I wasn't that happy with the power delivery in the last ride. And so after I cleaned it up and all, put the airbox on there, so that's different. Went to start it up, and well, first off, it's hard to start. Now that could be it just needs to be jetted. Now that I have the airbox on there, because we had the open filter on there, the open airbox limiter, whatever you want to call it, so that's going to be different. So it could just be that, but when I did finally get it started, it runs good and it feels like it's got good power, but it's difficult to start. So that, like I said, that could be jetting. But what's weird is how much easier it is to kick. So this thing used to be a serious bitch to kick over. You guys remember that video where it was kicking back really bad? Now that is something that breaks in, and I'm also getting used to it, but it definitely feels like, it doesn't feel like it has the proper amount of compression. It may have the proper amount of compression, I don't know. So I'm gonna test that in this video, but it has good power. So if it had low compression, it wouldn't be making good power. It doesn't even make sense. So when I fired it up, I noticed, here's the power valve up here. I noticed some smoke coming out of it. It's really difficult even for me to see with my bare eyes. So I'm gonna try to show you guys, but I have a feeling you're not gonna be able to see it. But I think something with the power valve is leaking. Something is definitely not right with that thing. I am pretty much up to, I'm pretty fed up with the power valve, to be honest with you. I kind of just wish I didn't have a power valve. I definitely would not run a power valve again. You know, there's chances are there's a possibility that mine's just not calibrated right or something, and I'm just really irritated with it, and it's actually a great piece. But right now, I've pretty much had it with it. So I'm gonna fire it up, and I'm gonna show you the power that it has. And then what we're gonna do, there's only 2 bolts to pull the thing off. We're gonna pull it out. I'm gonna see if it's dirty in there. It looks like it's leaking from like this seam right here or something. It's really hard to tell where the hell it's coming from. And again, guys, I'm sorry, I'm kind of pissed off right now, but let me show you. It should start up because it's kind of warm, 116 degrees. It's not cold, I'll put it to you that way. So let's get it neutral, and she should fire right up. I don't know if you guys can see it. It looks like there's a tiny bit of smoke coming out. It's really hard to see. I sprayed some soap on it earlier, and I do think it's leaking. It feels better on the 20s. You can see it's got power. Even like if I lug it, got good power. So you see that, I mean, it actually feels really good, I'm not gonna lie. I think it might have warmed up a little bit since the last time I took it out like 5 minutes ago. It does feel like it breaks up just a little bit in the top end, and that could also be that it's not fully warmed up. I mean, we're at 135 degrees right now, but I still just think something is not right with the power valve. So like I said, it doesn't hurt to pull that apart and clean it, and I just want to look in there. I've never had that off. When I had the cylinder off and I honed that and everything, I really should have taken it off then and cleaned it and all, but I just didn't. Lazy on my part. So we'll take it off today and we'll see what it looks like. I don't know. So I was talking with Justin Sturgill Trucking too, because like I said, he has a CEO as well. His is just a 390, and so you can see I have this tube on here. Apparently this is kind of common, that you get a little bit of splooge comes out of here, because this is a bleed off valve. So it's a gas pressure operated power valve, and forgive me guys, I'm not like super familiar with power valves, but when there's enough gas pressure, the power valve opens, and this is where the air bleeds off. So as you rev it up, you'll feel air pressure coming out of here, and then it should stop as the power valve opens. This bleed off valve should be closing. So there's that, and then you have the spring tension right here that can be adjusted. So it's all kind of trial and error, and you know, figuring out on your own, because every setup's going to be different and there's no instruction manual with this stuff. So I'm going to feel with my finger if there's any air pressure coming out of there, and I'll see if it shuts off when I rev it up, because Justin said that's what he did with his, and he could actually feel it shut off. So if I don't feel this shutting off, then it's not opening up all the way. So let's test that out, and regardless, even if it shuts off, I still want to pull it apart. All right, I feel air. All right, it was pushing out air the whole time, so I don't think it's closing all the way. I can tell, like, pretty much, or at least I think I can tell pretty much right away. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this thing apart. I'm gonna pull the jet out, then I'll pull these two bolts out here, pull the top piece off, and then this black fitting right there. All right, guys, I figured it would be easier to put you on the other side of the quad. So to disassemble this thing, like I said, we got 4 bolts. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have the little jet right here. I'm gonna pull the jet out. It's just a regular key and jet. I think this one's a 160. And from what I understand, the smaller that this is, the sooner the power valve will open up. So we might have to tone this jet down a little bit. But let's see what it looks like on the inside. And I just want to clean it up and polish everything so it's got a nice smooth action. If I had the cylinder off, I'd polish the inside too, but I don't want to do that because we'll get debris and stuff in there. We'll see what it looks like. Woo. Well, I can almost guarantee that this thing is leaking. I'm gonna pull you around this side and show you why I think that. This right here, that looks like oil was shooting out the bottom. That's what I think. I don't think that thing was sealed. So I think what I'll do is put a little bit of Yamabond on there, because you know I love Yamabond. And we'll clean that up really nicely. I'll put some aluminum brightener on there. We'll clean that off so that if we do get any more seepage or whatever the hell that is, we'll be able to see it. And we'll see what I can do about the inside of that. I'll definitely at least wipe it out and clean it out. And we'll clean out the power valve as well. All right, guys, there it is. Pretty simple piece. I'll pull these 2 bolts out and we'll pull it all the way apart. So this is our spring mechanism, and this is the adjuster back here, so you can see we put more pressure on this spring. You can see it's backed out pretty far. I imagine the less pressure that you have on there, the easier the power valve will open up. So I'd guess you put a wrench on here and you can unscrew that and then pull this off. I don't think that's necessary. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to do that
And I'm going to clean this out in here and polish this so that it's very, very smooth, even though it does feel pretty good. Looking at the bottom of this, it's hard to tell, but I feel like it was leaking out of here. It was really hard to tell, I mean, but something definitely didn't seem right. Alright guys, before I even begin working on this power valve, I want to clean it up. So I'm going to take these O-rings out. Give a quick little spray down with some lacquer thinner. This should cut the grease no problem. Oil, rather. Alright, now I also pulled the exhaust off and just kind of slid it backwards and pulled the exhaust flange off, just so that I can actually test the function of this power valve and make sure that it's moving nice and smoothly. So I did stuff the exhaust port with paper towels, and I'm just going to shoot some brake clean in here and try to clean it up a little bit because there's some oils. Alright, now as far as all these pieces go, I would say that this piece probably has the most amount of friction. You can actually see the marks and the wear on this. So, and there's a little bit of scoring too, some vertical lines. So I would say that this piece is probably the most important to polish. And then this as well, you can see friction marks. This slides on the inside here. I may have a buffing wheel that I can fit inside here and polish this out also, but I definitely want to smooth out the outside of this and the outside of this cylinder, just to make it, we want this thing moving as freely as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and polish those two things, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to get a polishing wheel inside the actual cylinder. If I had the cylinder removed, I could definitely do it. But for now, let's just see if we can get this thing to operate properly. All right, so I just got a soft buffing wheel here. We're going to work our way with a green and then white compound. The white compound is a little bit finer. And like I said, we're just going to try to make this thing really, really smooth so that it has a nice, good action. Alright, well that was kind of weird. As I was polishing this thing, I noticed there were two like little bushings or something in here, and they flew away. And I wasn't really sure if it was debris, or I really didn't know what the hell it was. I thought this thing was a solid piece with like two washers caked in there or something. But luckily I found them. They're these little split washers, two of them. And they go in between there. I guess they expand a little bit, and they help, you know, keep the pressure of the exhaust valve. I'm not really sure, but they fit in like that. So if you guys are ever doing this and you're wondering what goes in there, because I couldn't find anything online, really lucky that I was able to find these things, because they kind of just like flew into Neverland, you know what I mean? But anyways, I went ahead and finished up polishing this, and it does fit and slide very nicely now. Just got to fit those little, they're almost like piston rings. It's pretty smooth. But what I want to do is take this Dremel with a little buffing wheel, and I want to get in here also. And I might even be able to get in here. Yep, it just barely fits in there. So we'll just polish the inside of this thing. And here is the, I don't know what you would call this, the flap or whatever. You can see it's really smooth. It's not perfect. I was thinking about maybe hitting it with some like really, really fine grit sandpaper, but this is really smooth. It's a lot better than it was. So we'll see how it works like this, but it's definitely a huge improvement over what it was. Well, it seems to be moving nice and freely, very smooth. All right, I'm gonna put this thing back together in reverse order. I'm going to put just a dab of 2-stroke oil on this plunger, just to make sure that this is good and lubricated. And this will go in like so. Now we have a washer that goes on here. And now I believe the original ESR power valves, the older generations, this was actually notorious for backing out. And then as that would back out, you know, this would be pushed away, and then that would cause damage and possibly catastrophic engine failure. So I have Loctite 272, which is not Loctite 271. This is high temperature, but it's also, or it's the high tensile, but it's also high temperature. We'll tighten this down with an 8mm. Make sure that's good and snug. Now we have our cap with our spring adjuster. Before I put this back on, I'm going to break free this jam nut, and I'm going to back this spring out pretty much as far as it can go. So right about there, that'll have the least amount of tension, so the action should open sooner at a lower RPM. All right, so now we'll put the spring tensioner on. So we have our spring that just kind of slides right over that little hex head, and then we have a washer that goes on top right here, and then this will go on top. So before I put this on, we have an O-ring that goes in there, and I also want to hit this with a little bit of Yamabond 6B. 6B is the high temperature silicone from Yamabond. So just to ensure that we don't get any leaks, because I'm freaking paranoid about that. Put our O-ring in here. And for anybody wondering, Yamabond is the same as Honda Bond. They're both made by 3Bond. I think if you get it directly from 3Bond, it's 3Bond 1215. Put just a dot of regular blue Loctite on these bolts before we put them on. All right, so everything's together. And we want to make sure that the little bleed off valve is facing downwards, and that this portion of the actual power valve is facing this way. So I'm just going to kind of slide this in here. I want to see if the action is nice and smooth. Well, I didn't realize it, but this actually does have an orientation. So I'm going to have to pull this off and reorientate that. But it does seem to have a nice smooth operation. All right, I flipped over the bleed off valve, and while I was at it, I put our O-ring on and a little bit of Yamabond 6B. There we go. And there is a little bit of blue Loctite on these bolts. Okay. All right, so that's nice and snug. I'm gonna feel up in here one more time, and it feels very smooth. I wish I could actually show you guys what I'm doing, but it feels like we got it. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and put the exhaust flange and put the exhaust back into place. Now the little jet that goes in here, I think I said before it was a 190. I'm gonna drop that down to a 180. So if less gas pressure is bleeding off, that should create more pressure to push up on the exhaust valve. And I would rather it open too soon, just because then I know it's actually working, than for it to open too late. So I can always play with that and adjust that. But for now, we're gonna run the 180. I'm gonna fire it up and we'll see if the air stops coming out when I rev it up. All right, guys, I actually already tested it out. I can feel the air pressure right now. And it does close off.
we'll see what it feels like. Not sure, it might still need to warm up. We're at 140 degrees. It just kind of doesn't sound, like up top, it doesn't really scream. It definitely is better than before. The mid-range is really, really good. But it's when you go to wide open throttle, so it might just be a jetting issue. Yeah, I'm gonna say this comes down to a jetting issue. I think the power valve is definitely working now, but I think up top maybe I need to be a little bit fatter on the top jet. I'm not really sure, my main jet. So luckily, when we go out to Little Sahara, we're gonna be stopping and getting this thing dyno tuned. So we'll have all the little kinks sorted out, but it makes really good power, especially in the mid-range. So I think the power valve is probably working just fine. Like I said, when I like manually operated it, it seemed to go very, very smoothly. So anyways, that's how you clean the power valve.
Okay guys, so at this point I did a compression test and the compression came up a little bit light. I would like the compression to be around between 180 and 200. This is a high compression motor and we were putting out around 165. That's a little bit lighter than where it should be. This is a fresh cylinder still relatively, so it just doesn't seem right. And I pulled the cylinder off and it looked like at the top of the bore, everything was nice and tight, and then as the piston throw would go down, it looked like maybe the cylinder was ovaled out just slightly. It just didn't seem 100% perfect. So we're driving 26 hours to the sand dunes in Oklahoma. We're going to go to Little Sahara. I want this thing to be perfect, and that is why I decided to take the cylinder off and get it rebored. Might as well be safe than sorry. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. Hopefully this will help you out if you're having issues with your power valve. And if you haven't already, definitely check out the merch store. We got the brand new Top Quad shirts. We've got Team Sabo on the back. We also got Team JS t-shirts as well if you want to be on Justin's side, and I will have the link in the description to both of those t-shirts. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this content. I will see you guys in the next one. We will be in the shop tomorrow. I'm actually heading to Matt's place right now, Mechanical Hulk. We're going to put the new O-bore tires on the 250R rims and on the Top Quad rims, so that's going to be pretty cool. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.